Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies. As we begin with part 1, Foreword of the Orders of the Great Work by Manly P. Hall. The Adepts in the Western Esoteric Tradition by Manly P. Hall, Part 2. Orders of the Great Work. Foreword. During the Hermetic recension in Europe, the title of adept was applied almost exclusively to the masters of operative alchemy, certainly philosopher-chemists who had gained unusual distinction, as Paracelsus, Lully, and Ripley were referred to as adepts by later authors and disciples of the art. The title had a large implication, however, when applied to the unnamed masters to whom uncertain activities. There are scattered references in the tracts published by aspiring chemists. The unidentified adepti, like the perfect ones, the wandering Albigensian bishops, had no certain identity or residence, but appeared miraculously in response to the earnest prayers of devout disciples. The adepts seemed to possess the power to examine into the hearts and minds of men, to weigh motives and to determine merit. They appeared fortuitously at the precise moment when their advice and guidance were most necessary. They seldom lingered in one vicinity, and justified their coming and goings by assuming the habits and trades of journeymen. All who claimed adeptship were not honorable or sincere. Many chemists were deceived by pretenders who found it profitable to exploit the unwary. A curious little work titled The Complete History of an Unknown Man, which appeared as an appendix to the early edition of Fama Fraternaeus, described a suspected adept whose specialty was whistling rats out of houses. This Hermetic Pied Piper passed through the town of Wetzlar in 1615, claiming to be a brother of the Rosy Cross. The account was faithfully prepared by George Mother, the town physician, as proof of strange and wonderful things. The true adepts carried means of identification of a kind not to be discovered by the profane. They could not be distinguished by garb or appearance, though often they conveyed the impression of being foreigners. Sometimes these adepts revealed the supreme secret, but more often they merely proved the possibility of the great work by bestowing a small amount of the precious stone. Such gifts frequently led to disaster if the recipient of the powder of transmutation advertised his good fortune without proper caution. Abrich Dürer, the celebrated German painter and engraver, is reported to have left a woodblock print depicting a council of the Hermetic adepts. The picture is extremely elusive and has not been identified with certainty among his enormous output. There is a considerable literature relating to the mysterious appearance of adepts and the wonders which they perform, but the examples which we have included in the present section will suffice. It was not until the 18th century that the European adepts took on the full habiliments of Eastern Mahatmas. With the rise of the masonic fraternity, interest in practical alchemy gave place to the restoration of the Hermetic schools of universal philosophy. Wisdom and not wealth inspired the search for the higher secrets of the esoteric tradition. The adepts came to be regarded as wonderfully enlightened persons, like the patriarchs of old. They formed a grand lodge, a secret fraternity of illuminated master builders. Craft masonry did not satisfy completely the aspirations of the earnest human soul. The rites and rituals were but the symbols of sublime truths guarded by secret orders of initiates. This has been referred to as the Romantic period of Freemasonry. The present section of our outline of the adept tradition advances the hypothesis that the wandering sages were bound together in a vast project of social reformation. This is no more than is implied by the second argument by which the Brothers of the Rosy Cross bound themselves. We have no strict accounting of what passed between the adepts and those disciples which they visited and instructed. The Backstorm diaries suggest that under the symbolism of the bestowal of the stone, a ritual of initiation was to be understood. Naturally, the true secrets were communicated lip to ear and under oath. Thus the adepts were recruiting the sons of light, who were to form the army of the elect. These were instructed to remain in readiness until the day be with us. The inner machinery of this program was too subtle to be captured in the pages of prosaic history. Only the consequences appeared as effects deprived of their cause. As the philosophic program unfolded, the adepts revealed themselves as princes of the invisible empire. Within this empire, there were all grades and degrees of citizens, which gave alliance to the philosopher king. Thus, the Hierophant of the ancient mysteries, robed in blue and gold, bearing the scepter and the ankh, and crowned with a coronet of battlements, was dimly perceived enthroned between the pillars of the porch of the everlasting house. The esoteric priesthood was divided into several grades or degrees, of which, in ascending order, can be mentioned accepted students, disciples, initiates, and adepts. From Pythagoras, the first European adept, to the Masonic restoration of the Ladder of the Sages, there has been no essential change in the internal structure of the adept tradition. The mathematical mystery of the structure of the great school becomes obvious in times of general enlightenment and retires into a state of obscurity as nations or races fall away from the spiritual tradition. The pattern of the invisible empire is impressed like a seal upon all the physical institutions which it fashions and overshadows. Each of these secret societies is a microcosm of the whole design, and these microcosms, when clustered into their proper geometric arrangement, become the petals of a vast cosmic flower, like the mystic rose of Dante's vision and the white lotus blossom of the Eastern mysteries. The Book of the Adepts, like the Mutus Liber, is a book without words. The truth must be discovered through the contemplation of certain motions in the world and in man. We sincerely hope that by tracing the descent of the adept tradition through its appearances, we may convey at the same time something of the substance behind the shadow. In this way, our project becomes in turn a microcosm or a compression of a sequence of events and occurrences. Any detail may be argued, any particular may be dissected to no avail, but the compound exhibits the signature of the great work. Manly Palmer Hall, Los Angeles, California, June 1949. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.